week's edition of Pods from the KOP. Welcome, Steve, and welcome, Kirsty. So we'll just get straight into it. Football fans get a lot of bad press a lot of the time, whether it be for their actions on social media or their actions around grounds. This week, I think they've done themselves proud with the food banks issue and what's going on. So, Steve, what's your views on what football fans have been up to the last few days?
I think it's amazing to raise well over 100,000. It's approaching 120,000 now. I saw the numbers from Spirit Shankly on Twitter. I think for football fans to come together like that, to raise that kind of money to help in that situation, because clearly there needs to be some support. People need to come together. I just really hope that every week, whichever club it is, they follow suit. I know Newcastle have done something similar, but then Newcastle and Liverpool are very similar cities in how they go about life anyway. But I think it's really refreshing, and I think you're right. Lots of bad press about things that football fans do, and often justifiably bad press. But in this case, the call to arms from a city like Liverpool, it doesn't surprise me. It shouldn't surprise anyone that this is what's happened, because it's kind of in the nature of the people. I'm proud of the people that are football fans that went and did that. I think that's an absolutely tremendous thing to do. So long may it continue for however long pay-per-view football lasts, and hopefully, based on the rumours going around today, not too long.
What's your views on it, Kirsty, with the 100k that's been raised to feed children this week?
Yeah, I think it's absolutely fantastic. The total, I think they actually set on the page to like 10 grand or something like that. So the fact that they got 100 grand upwards in such a short space of time, I mean, absolutely fantastic. I just think, it is a football club and the fans' responsibility to be part of the community and to support the community when it's needed. So for me, it's vital that fans do stuff like this. And Liverpool, and Everton have always been very good at doing that and supporting the community. I've got a mate, Kerry, she's a massive Aston Villa fan. She's like tirelessly volunteering for homeless charities and food banks, and they've done similar at Aston Villa. Like Steve said, I know Newcastle are on it as well. I think West Ham have been doing something similar. So I just hope after the good news this week and how much money's been raised, that some more clubs, sign up to it and do it as well. Whilst the PPV is still around, as Steve said, I think I've been reading stuff today and it sounds like it might disappear. But certainly for the time being, I think it's a great initiative, and I think more clubs should get behind it.
Do you think the disappearance of possibly PPV is down to the backlash of fans this weekend, Steve?
It's down to the backlash, not just this weekend, since the moment it went live. I don't think the backlash just comes from the fans. I think if you're a human person with a decent moral compass, like some of the TV shows and the people who are doing the camera work and stuff are, if you look at BT and people they don't actually want to be doing it anyway. Sky don't care. Sky's a Rupert Murdoch-driven cash cow, so they're not really bothered. They'll take whatever money they can get. But there are people out there that don't think it's right, and some of the noises and some of the disgruntlements come from the likes of BT Sport. Brilliant, absolutely brilliant. Just got to show that the football clubs, those that are greedy, those that want an excess of money, don't always get it right, don't always rule the roost. It would be, the people power would be amazing if that was the catalyst to this falling down, and I really hope it does.
Earlier today or yesterday in the press, Kirsty, it was said that BT and Sky weren't in favour of it. So where do you think it's come from, the pay-per-view?
I'm a bit perplexed, to be honest, because you would have thought that BT and Sky were the ones behind it. But then I think, as I said on the previous podcast that I was on, I'm not sure it makes any difference to them. The crews are there and the cameras are there, so they're already recorded anyway. So why they need $14.95 for every match, I'm not sure. No, don't know. Genuinely don't have an answer for it. So I just hope that, having seen what's been done for good this weekend with the food banks, that they do look to just pull it off, because BT Sport in particular don't seem to care. So I'm just not sure who's come up with the idea and how it's got put in, to be honest.
Back to you, Steve, and back a bit closer to the pitch. It seems that Liverpool have been linked with 3 centre-halves that may be coming in January. Koulibaly, I'll let you pronounce the other two, Steve. What do you think, and which one do you think Liverpool are most likely to get?
So I think it's Kabak, isn't it? The guy that is one of the ones. Very much reminiscent of Dejan Lovren in the sense that he's wholehearted, but he's also a little bit rash. Not sure that fits in with what we're trying to do at the moment. Koulibaly, absolutely not. The guy will, by the time next summer comes, will be banging on the door of 30. You're not going to pay someone like that 200 grand a week, because that's probably what his agent would ask for, and come up with a transfer fee of somewhere between 60 and 70 million. It's just not viable. The podcast we did last week where we talked about the business model at FSG run, there's no return on that investment. It makes absolutely no sense whatsoever to sign a Koulibaly, which leads me very nicely to Upamecano. There you go, got it right. Upamecano is absolutely the right guy for the job. He would be a man, and I would go for him absolutely all day long. He's young, he's quick, he's a good footballer. He's kind of like a Ndombele version of a centre half. So much promise with a lot of developments ahead of him. So that would be my bet, and apparently he's available for about 40 million.
Same question to you, Kirsty. Which one do you think's most likely to come, and which one would you like to see come?
Yeah, you've caught me a bit off guard here, because I haven't actually been as up to speed this week with some of the rumours. But I think I'd echo what Steve said in terms of return on investment and people's age. It sounds like Meccano, or however I'm supposed to be pronouncing it, is probably the most likely option. Koulibaly, I do like him as a player, but yeah, with his age, I just don't think it'd be beneficial for the squad at the moment. One thing I have picked up on, which seems to be just rumours, but I hope it is true, is the link to Connor Cody getting him back to the club. I'm not sure if that's going to happen, but I think that would be a quality move. But yeah, I think that's very, very unlikely. So it'd be interesting to see what unfolds. Obviously, the injuries aren't changing with Virgil, unfortunately, out. So yeah, I'll keep a close eye on that, on the situation.
Right, thank you very much, guys. We'll move on to the next segment. I'm just going to cut there, okay, so I know where I'm editing. Right, we're ready now. We're going to talk about the match. So, welcome back, everybody. This weekend we played Sheffield United and won 2-1 after falling behind by a very dubious penalty. So, Steve, what was your summary of the match?
Lots of similarities with the Everton game in the sense that we started well. Again, we started well down the left-hand side. We created the chances we did early doors. And then we got bullied a bit more. I think we shouldn't have our centre-halves being knocked around by Ollie McBurney or whatever his name is. You know, granted, the lad's a professional footballer playing in the Premier League, but you know, we've got a decent back four. I thought they put us under a bit of pressure. I don't know whether we played deep and we protected Alisson because he might be 70% fit with the shoulder problem, but deemed fit enough to play. I'm really hoping that this isn't sort of a catalyst to every single team basically starting their games thinking that teams can bully us, because it's going to make for a difficult season if that's the case. What we need to do is put in a barnstorming performance and batter somebody 5-0. We've got it within us. At this moment in time, we're a little bit vulnerable. We're a bit fragile. What's going on around the club with the injuries? I kind of understand why. I felt we were a bit fragile. The game itself, as a spectacle in terms of quality, thought it was pretty poor, to be fair. I don't know that the new formation with Bobby behind Mane with Jota on the left and Salah on the right, or whatever way you choose to rotate that, works particularly well. I thought, aside from his goal, I'm not seeing Bobby coming onto the ball. So when you pass a ball to a player, you need to come onto the ball to be able to change the direction of the ball and do something with it. There are so many times that the ball doesn't get to him or doesn't get to his targets because it's a little apathetic the way he's playing football at the moment. He's a bit too laid back and a bit too chilled out and relaxed about it all. And it doesn't work for me. I think get Bobby back to the form we had in 17-18 when he scored all those goals, 17 goals and all those assists. Is he ever going to be that player again? We've talked before about one of the front three moving on in the summer. And I know I'm going a bit left field from the game at the weekend, but that is because of what I saw. Don't be surprised if it's Bobby that isn't at the club next year. There's rumours today of Real Madrid looking at him. How true that is, I don't know. But something isn't right in the way the team was set up at the weekend. That sort of advanced midfielder playing behind two inside forwards, as we call them, and a number 9, a small number 9. There's no point in putting crosses into the box with us. Yeah, it didn't seem to work. It felt disjointed, and I didn't think the quality of the game was very good at all. But then the quality of most of the games I watched at the weekend was particularly poor. You couldn't say one of them was brilliant.
Same question to you, Kirsty. How did you see the game on Sunday? Was it Sunday night? Saturday night?
Yeah, so again, you'll have to forgive me. I feel like I'm very underprepared for this podcast, but there we go. I actually didn't watch the match because didn't pay the $14.95. But yeah, I did catch up with the highlights and watched it back on Match of the Day. So the one thing that stood out for me was that, you know, on the face of it, yeah, it was, you know, a bit of a scrappy result, but a 2-1, you know, against all the results that the other, you know, usual top 6 pulled out this weekend, it actually was a really important result for us. And I think those 3 points are going to be, you know, pretty vital. The other thing I just noted was Jota. He's someone that I know quite well as a player, having seen him play for my fella's side, and I was excited to see him come. I think, you know, he scored twice now in the Premier League. The header was a nice header. I think he definitely has an impact when he's on the bench. When he starts. Granted, I only saw, you know, the highlights from his game, but he looked like he had a good match at the weekend. The other thing I noted was somebody sent round the stats for Gomez after the match, and I think, you know, we're going to be relying on Gomez a hell of a lot in the next few matches, and his stats that come through looked really, really solid. Obviously, we conceded, but due to a bit of a dodgy penalty from what it looked like. But yeah, I think that was a positive for me, knowing that Gomez had put in a solid performance, because I think we're going to be relying on him quite a lot in the coming games. As for the penalty, again, got to be a bit careful because I've only seen the highlights. I actually thought it's one of those that you've seen given either way, but for me, it definitely looked like Fabinho had won the ball. So it was a harsh one for me. So to go down and then come back, get 2-1, get the 3 points, I think for Liverpool on that weekend, having seen the other results, I think that was a really good result for us.
Any stand-up performances from you, Steve, from what you saw?
I'll echo a little bit of what Kirsty just said. It was a better performance by Gomez, certainly was. Not the finished article by any stretch. The bullying would include him too, that I spoke about earlier, but a better performance. I think the way Sheffield United play lends itself to being a centre-half because they tend to go quite direct, and that makes it contentious. You can pretty much challenge for every ball. Gomez used his pace on a number of occasions for interceptions, which was a particularly high stat for Gomez's game. Usual suspects, again, at the risk of repeating everything Kirsty just said, I thought Jota had a good game. Looks the part, will be the first substitute type of squad player we've ever had that's putting pressure on the front three. Origi's not putting pressure on the front three. Brewster was subbed after less than an hour for Sheffield United because he was absolutely anonymous. So that deal looks better all the time you look at it. I'm probably going to go out on a limb and again, I'm going to support something Kirsty said in the past. What Jordan Henderson does goes unnoticed by many. It's phenomenal. Organisation, communication, effort and intensity is right up there with the best of the best. So in what I think was difficult to score Liverpool players particularly highly because it was a result rather than a performance, if that makes sense. I'm going to probably plump for it and say, again, with a sort of a disjointed back four with the lack of a true centre-half partner for Gomez and Fabinho deputising particularly well there, I think I'm going to go with the skipper. I thought Henderson, again, epitomises everything. He's 8 out of 10 every week at the moment. And on Saturday, 8 out of 10 was enough for man of the match for me.
Kirsty just touched on it there. What was your view on the decision? Apparently, VR was looking at whether it was a foul or whether it was in the box. So just why couldn't he check and see if that wasn't a foul, Steve? What's your view on that?
First of all, he never went to the monitor. It was made from a broom cupboard, which is a crazy decision. He does get the ball, but you can be penalised for a follow-through. You can be penalised for what happens after you've won the ball. It wasn't in the box. So to ask the question, was the challenge inside or outside of the box, and not ask was it a foul, says that the VAR have agreed with the referee that it was a foul, and it wasn't. You see, like Kirsty said, you've seen them given and you've seen them not given. Bizarre, absolutely bizarre. Again, I think, you know, VAR is. I tweeted after the game. Once again, we're finding ourselves talking about officialdom as opposed to football. The idea of VAR was to take all of the errors and inconsistencies off the pitch and iron them out by giving somebody sort of a third eye, as it were. If anything, it's worse. It's worse than it ever was before. It's questionable whether you give a foul, but even if you do, it's not in the box. And I've played football myself at a reasonable level. A direct free kick from there serves no purpose because you can't get it up and down anyway. So massive advantage given to Sheffield United because of what is a dodgy call. I wouldn't say it was a question mark over if it was even a foul, but it certainly wasn't in the box. It was not in the box. It was outside of the box. So once again, VAR comes under scrutiny for me for an incorrect decision.
Steve touched on something before, Kirsty, and I just want to ask your opinion on it. Was the change in formation? I think it was a 4-2-3-1. I think you described it as. Do you see us sticking with that, Kirsty? And I know you've only seen highlights, but would you be wanting to stick with it?
Yeah, I think it was interesting. I think Jota was mainly on the right wing, if I'm, you know, viewing the highlights correctly. So it definitely seems like something that could be, you know, played with. I've also read that there is a consideration that Jota could potentially go into the Firmino role, particularly what Steve said previously about, you know, Firmino perhaps not being to the best we know he can be at the moment. It does make me wonder whether Klopp's going to start experimenting a bit more, particularly with Jota. I think I would like to see it again. Perhaps not in some of the, you know, bigger Premier League games, but certainly in some of your, for instance, tomorrow's match. I'm not sure if we're going to come on to that shortly, but yeah, I definitely think it's worth experimenting with the formation whilst we've got the opportunity to do it with Jota. But equally, I think that the solid front three, you know, when Firmino is on his game and Mane and Salah alongside him, I think, you know, if it isn't broke, don't fix it, sort of thing. So it'd be interesting to see. But I do feel like I get a sense from Klopp that he's starting to experiment a bit more now he's brought in these few extra players. So yeah, be interesting to see what he does for the next league match.
I'll stick with you then, Kirsty. So what do you think the starting lineup will be and formation will be for tomorrow?
Yeah, tricky. So I've been reading, I think Matip and Thiago should be available to select. If they are, I think for me, Matip doesn't get in. I've got a feeling it'll still be Gomez and Fabinho at the back. In midfield, I think potentially Thiago could get a say. You know, it seems like one of those matches where it'd be good for him to get another solid sort of 60 minutes on the ground. Whether he will, I don't know. But yeah, going back to Jota, I do think he'll start Jota instead of Firmino potentially tomorrow. I also think he could drop, you know, Salah or Mane. We saw against Ajax, I think it was, that he started Curtis Jones. So it's interesting at the moment. I feel like Klopp's definitely rotating a bit more than he usually would have. So yeah, I'm not sure Firmino gets the start tomorrow. And I think even though Matip could be back for contention, I think it'll still be Fabinho in defence. Midfield, not sure. Potentially could be Thiago and Henderson. But yeah, not sure.
Same question to you, Steve. What team do you see us running with tomorrow?
I think I'll go with the team that played on Saturday. And I think the only change you'll make is Nico Williams will come in for Trent. I don't think Thiago will be risked. I don't think Jones will play in a European fixture because they're different. They're different to domestic games completely. I think he'll try that again. It's a good opportunity against a side that on paper shouldn't ask us too many questions. And there's no point in coming out to play and sitting with 5 in defence and 4 in front of that, 1 up front on his own. If they're going to get passage to the Europa League, they need to get a result in 1 or 2 of the games, and they'll be encouraged by the fact that teams have gotten at Liverpool in the last couple of weeks. But I only see the only change I see is Nico Williams, and I see Klopp going with the same formation again, purely because if it doesn't work, then there shouldn't be too much damage done to us by the opposition to change it at some point. It's not like I'm going to try and recover it from 2-0 down, because I don't think they've got the ability to put us under that much pressure. I think our system as it was works. I'm not massively keen on the change. I think looking at performances of late, Jota for Firmino makes sense for me. He's clearly an intelligent footballer. He's answered some of the questions that we asked in recent pods. I think Firmino's got to find something in his game to improve, personally. So I see it being the same team as Saturday, with potentially Nico Williams playing at right back instead of Trent.
So before I go back to Casey then, Steve, what do you think the score will be tomorrow?
You don't know at the moment. I've said before in the pod, somebody's going to get on the wrong end of a pasting. Both Salah and Mane are playing particularly well, looking really sharp. Where it's kind of fell down for them is Mane's trying to do too much because the service from Bobby isn't what it was. And you never, ever, ever criticise a forward for being greedy. You can have 15 shots in the game, put 14 of them in the stand, one in the top corner, you win 1-0 and you're a hero. So that thing that Salah's selfish doesn't wash for me. That's what you do with front men. They take chances, and they take chances when other people think they're better placed. I think Liverpool win. I think Liverpool win without too much trouble. This is going to sound mad. It'll either be like 2-0 or 5-1. It'll whichever Liverpool turns up, they'll do enough to win it, or they'll turn up, do a grandstand performance and win it at a canter, mate.
Same question to you, Kirsty. How do you see tomorrow's game going?
Yeah, I think, as Steve said, on paper, you know, these guys shouldn't be causing us too much trouble. Certainly not at Anfield. They also, you know, in their last game against Atalanta, I think they lost like 4-0 or something, and that was at home. So they're certainly there for the taking, in my opinion. Depending on the lineup, obviously myself and Steve had slightly different opinions there. I think, yeah, what Steve said is interesting because it could be a mixture of those two scores. I think I'll pump for a 3-0 though. I think I'll go for a clean sheet and a 3-0. Feeling confident.
I think that's the perfect note to leave it on. Thank you very much for today, Casey, and thank you very much, Steve. If you've liked what you listened to today, make sure you pop over to Apple Podcasts, leave us a 5-star rating and leave us a little review. It does a lot for us, and it lets a lot of other people know that we're here. So thank you very much, guys, and I'll speak to you on the next episode.
Cheers, guys.
Thanks.